Yo, what's up, Broncos country? This is Eddie with Rocky Mountain Blitz. So today I wanted to make this video and I wanted to talk about OTAs, which was this week, and everything that's happened, the news, pretty much go through everything that I heard coming out of OTAs, players that were there, that weren't there, were practicing, not practicing, all this and that. So let's get into it. So, as most of you know, OTA started, I believe, on Monday. And a lot of news, Sean Payton was asked before OTA started, or he pretty much said, the starters going into OTAs, it was going to be Stidham, I think Zach Wilson, and Bo Nix was last. They were all going to get first team reps with the first teamers, but on each day. So, like Monday, I think Stidham got him, or Tuesday, Stidham got him, then yesterday, Zach Wilson, and today, Bo Nix got him. So, with that said, they were out there practicing. The media wasn't allowed out there the first couple of days of OTAs. Today, the media was allowed out there. And if you've been on YouTube at all today, there's a few clips from today of OTAs. And you see Bo Nix out there, you see Zach Wilson. I think there was one clip where you saw Jarrett Stidham out there, but it was mostly Zach Wilson and Bo Nix, which to me, a lot of people are talking, saying, oh, or, who's going to be the backup? Like a lot of people don't, think that I should say the majority of people say that Bo Nix is going to be a starter. They think he's going to be the starter come week one. And Stidham and Zach are going to be battling for the backup, quarterback spot. So, and personally, like people were saying, oh, well, maybe they carry three quarterbacks. I don't think they carry three quarterbacks. I really don't. I don't see that happening. No team does, especially now with the new rule to where you can have two quarterbacks on the roster, and on game day, you can activate a third that doesn't take up a roster spot. So there's really no need to carry three quarterbacks. So I don't see them doing that. They're going to go into the season with two. And personally, my opinion, I think those two are going to be Bo Nix starting and Zach Wilson as the backup. I think Jared Sim is the odd man out. Granted, he knows the offense. He's been in the offense longer than both Zach and Bo. But you cut him, you save $5 million. I think anywhere the Broncos can save money this season, that they're going to do with taking 53 million versus dead cap. So, with that said, I wanted to get into what Benjamin Albright said on X or Twitter. Pretty much, he said that day one of OTAs looked like day one of OTAs. He said that Wilson threw a pick. Uh, Nix was throwing behind his receivers, and he pretty much said that Stidham probably won that day one, which I expected. No one should expect that Bo Nix or Zach Wilson's going to win day one of OTAs, considering the fact that Stidham was with the ones. Uh, he started, and the fact that he even has, a whole season already under the system. Like, I'm not worried. Like, a lot of people, whenever they hear, oh, Bo Nix, like if you have a young rookie quarterback, people hear, oh, he threw a pick in OTAs or training camp, or oh, he's behind his receivers, his timing, all this and that and the other. Like, people freak out about that. And honestly, I don't understand why. Like, he's a young QB, first year in the system. It's OTAs day one. So I don't understand why people would freak out about something like that. Jared Stidham, he's a veteran. He's been in the league for 4 years. He's been in the system for one. So yeah, he's probably going to have the upper hand to start out. Now, as the offseason progresses, we get through OTAs, we get in the mandatory mini camp, then we get to training camp, then preseason, you know, that's when you're going to want to see the growth from, Bo Nix. As we know, he can run the system fine. He can do the checks, he can do all this and that. But, you know, as the offseason progresses, we're going to probably see Bo Nix take that first spot. Honestly, I do believe that. That's going to 100% happen. Bo Nix is going to take the number one. So with that said, with Adam, what Adam, or I'm sorry, with what Benjamin Albright said is that Jared Stidham won the day on the first day of OTAs. You know, Bo Nix was behind his receivers and Zach Wilson threw a pick. Now, even Zach Wilson, I'm not going to freak out about. Like, he's a backup. Like, yeah, he was the second overall pick a few years back, but he's a backup. He's mostly here to back up Bo Nix and to hopefully get his career back on track. Maybe he can get like a new spark on his career under Sean Payton. So I'm not too worried about it. Now, if training camp gets here, preseason gets here, and Granted, still preseason and training camp are still times to work out the kinks, work out all that stuff with your timing, with your receivers and all that. But you're going to see improvement through Bo Nix. I guarantee you that. But like if there was like if you see no, none, no kind of progression forward, that'd be a little concerning. But Bo Nix is going to get better. Like I said, timing with the receivers is going to take time. It was the first day of OTAs. So I'm not too worried about it. Bo Nix will be fine. And I do believe he will be the starter. Like originally, I was like, I think he should sit behind the vet for maybe half the season or a full season or at least a couple of games. But with watching him, watching this film, just seeing how he's handling Sean Payton's offense, especially in rookie minicamp, what they, did with him before they even drafted him, I think the kid's going to be ready. Yeah, he's going to need a little time throughout this offseason. Like I said, OTAs, mandatory mini camp, training camp, preseason. That's the time for him to build, timing with those receivers, chemistry with those receivers. Any of the things that he doesn't have down in the offense, that's the time for him to get that down. By week one, he should have all that down. So I'm not too concerned. Same with Zach Wilson. I'm not concerned. Granted, Zach Wilson, I would be a little bit more concerned with, but he's not the starter. But I do believe Sean Payton is probably going to keep Zach Wilson and Bo Nix are going to be the two quarterbacks. And I think Jared Stidham by the start of the season is going to be out the door. Or they could go another, but that's what I think. But the other route is, Jared Stidham battles with Zach Wilson. He wins the backup competition for the backup role to Bo Nix. And then maybe some team will be like, hey, we'll give you a fifth or a fourth for Zach Wilson if they see enough out of him in preseason. Maybe that happens. I don't know. Or maybe they hang on to him until like midseason, just like last year with Dobbs. Some team, loses their quarterback. They're in desperate need of a quarterback, and they come over to the Broncos like, hey, we'll give you a fourth or whatever for Zach Wilson midway through the season because they desperately need a quarterback. That could happen too. So, but the next thing and last thing I want to get into is a tweet by Mike Kliss. Um, Not participating in Broncos OTAs today, and I believe that was he posted this today. Cortland Sutton, which we all know, he's still looking for a new contract or at least some more guaranteed money, which I believe the Broncos will get done. And I watched Sean Payton's presser today. He said that will work itself out. They will get Cortland Sutton, the money that he wants, and he will be on the team this year. Um, so I'm not too worried about Cortland Sutton in that aspect. He'll be back by the start of training camp, probably even mandatory mini camp. They'll probably have a deal done within the next month. The next one was DJ Jones. Um, this one, I really don't know why DJ Jones wasn't out there. He still got one more year left on his deal. I think at 10 million, non-guaranteed. Oh, maybe that's why. Maybe he's seeking a new deal too. But you know, he's still under contract for another year, so they can very easily, if mandatory minicamp shows up and Cortland Sutton or DJ Jones don't showing up, then they're going to start getting fined. So they'll eventually get there. Like I believe both of them will be back by mandatory minicamp. The next one, I'm sorry, the next four of these guys, uh, Dulcich, Turner Yell, Caden Stearns, and Drew Sanders. All those guys are still working through injuries. As we know, Drew Sanders, he's probably going to be out, until probably at least at the earliest he can come back is maybe, I don't know, October. So Drew Sanders, he's not going to be ready for the start of the season, which, if they're going to use him like they did last year outside, I think we're pretty good at the outside position. But if he was inside, I'd be a little bit more concerned. But since they used him last year as outside, I'm not too concerned with that. We'll get Drew Sanders back when we get him back in October. Caden Stearns, as you all know, he got hurt last year. He's still working through an injury. So hopefully pretty soon he comes back. Hopefully by training camp, he's back. And by the start of the season, he's back. Turner Yell, I think he also got injured. He's working through an injury. I can't remember exactly what happened to him, but he should be ready for training camp as well. Dulcich, as we all know, he was working through an injury just like last year. Like it sucks, but I think he's still coming along. Peyton kind of shed some light on this, saying, he's in a good place right now. They expect him to, hopefully be ready for the start of the season. So that's all the news that I have from OTAs. But like I said, like if you go on YouTube, you can watch. Bo Nix was out there throwing today. They actually had media out there. The training facility today was the only day they had media out there. You see Bo Nix out there. He's he's throwing pretty good. So I'm not too concerned with it. You guys shouldn't be either. Like I said, it's a young rookie. He's going to, probably make some mistakes during mandatory mini camp, training camp, and preseason. He's probably going to make mistakes. And I know with this fan base, a lot of us are itching, for something at the quarterback position because we haven't had it since Peyton Manning. But seeing like the way fans freaked out anytime a quarterback, it didn't matter if it was a young guy or if it was an older guy, anytime a quarterback made a mistake in training camp, mandatory mini camp, preseason, anytime a quarterback made a mistake, this a lot of people in this fan base just crucified, like, oh God, here we go again, and the biggest one that comes to mind is Drew Lock. Like, anytime that kid made a mistake, even if he made a slight one, which that's what the whole offseason's about, is working through the, problems, working out the kinks and everything. So anything that Bo Nix does from here until the start of the season, I'm not too concerned with. Is as long as if he's starting week 1 against the Seahawks, he's good and he's ready to go and he's got all the kinks out. I don't care how, what mistakes he makes in mandatory minicamp, training camp, or preseason. I don't care. Get it out in those times. Get it out in training camp, mandatory minicamp, preseason. Get all the mistakes out of the way and everything there and work on everything during that time. So that way, whenever the regular season comes around, you're not going to be making those mistakes. You know what to do, which I'm not too concerned with because Bo Nix does know what he's doing. I will be really, really surprised if Bo Nix is not the starter week 1. Like, it's like I said, Stidham does have the slight edge right now because he's been in the system for a year. He understands it. Bo Nix just came into it like a month ago. So as long as he can continue to work, get better, get better at learning, and he learns more about the system as the offseason progresses, and works out all the kinks, Bo Nix is going to be your starter week 1. And honestly, I still think it's going to be Zach Wilson and Bo Nix as our 2 QBs. No, Nix is going to be the starter. Zach Wilson will be the backup. And I think Stidham is going to be a free agent by the start of the season. But I could be wrong. They very well could hang on to Stidham and get rid of Zach Wilson. Maybe trade him. Maybe he does well in training camp and preseason, and some team comes knocking and says, hey, we kind of need a quarterback, blah, 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 blah. We'll give you a 5th round pick for Zach Wilson. But I think the more likely scenario is that I don't think they're going to keep 3 quarterbacks, but if they don't and they keep, Zach Wilson, I can totally see them keeping Zach Wilson to like midseason. Some, team comes a knock and says, hey, we'll give you a 4th because they're desperate for a quarterback, kind of like Minnesota did last year. Say, we'll give you a 4th round pick for Zach Wilson because we desperately need a quarterback. And the Broncos send him, and maybe they, sign some guy off the street to come in and be the backup during midseason. Or the other scenario is they do keep 3 quarterbacks. They keep Zach Wilson, Bo Nix, of course, will be the starter. Zach Wilson will be the backup, and then Stidham will be the 3rd string. So that way, if you do something like that, where, Zach Wilson shows flashes, some team comes, around week 6, week 7, says, hey, we need a quarterback. Here's a 4th round pick. Give us Zach Wilson. And then boom, you got Zach Wilson. You get a 4th or 5th out of him. You get an extra draft pick for next year. And then Stidham slides into the backup role. And you still have him for another year. But personally, I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be Bo Nix and Zach Wilson. And if that were to happen, a trade for Zach Wilson midseason, I believe the Broncos will go out and sign somebody else. Maybe they even put, Stidham, they probably cut him. And I don't think a whole lot of maybe a team does pick him up. But, there's so many quarterbacks out there you could go out and get, to slide into that backup position. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. But for now, that's all the news we have. I will be going live this Sunday again at 7 p.m. Mountain Time with my co-host Muhammad on Colorado Sports Connection. So go over there and subscribe. And please like and comment, subscribe on this channel too. I'm trying to get to, right now, I'm sitting, I think, at 15 subscribers. I'm trying to at least get to 20 by this time next week. So if you guys can help and hit that subscribe button, I greatly appreciate it. So I will talk to you guys later. Peace.